Men have a pretty long history of trying to convince women not to cut their hair.
It's just what I want.
Across cultures and throughout history, women have largely been expected to keep it long. There's even a passage about it in the Bible. And up until the 1920s, short hair was still pretty risque in America. But then something changed, and contrary to popular opinion, it wasn't because of flappers. It was women like Greenwich Village bohemian Clara Tice, who was basically a turn-of-the-century Instagram influencer. In 1908, she was inspired by Russian women intellectuals and revolutionaries who were disguising themselves from the police. When they emigrated to the US, they brought their haircuts with them. There was also the dancer Irene Castle, who around 1913 popularized the hairstyle that would be the go-to look for flappers for the next 15 years. By 1920, the New York Times published a trend piece about how short hair suddenly wasn't just a thing in cool urban circles, but for everyday women. And unsurprisingly, some men were not thrilled. Salons would refuse to give bobs, and F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote a story called Bernice Bobs Her Hair, warning young women that short hair would turn them into total social outcasts. Even Vogue was skeptical at first. But that didn't stop women from making the chop. Some went to men's barbershops, some cut their hair themselves, and some even conspired with their doctors to diagnose them with falling hair just so they'd be able to get a bob. Eventually, the wider world came around, which in turn ended up boosting the beauty industry. In 1920, there were just 5,000 hair salons across the US, but by 1924, there were 21,000. It's no surprise that all this was taking place in the decade in which gender boundaries were starting to be pushed. But the next headline-making pixie cut didn't really come until decades later, in 1953's Roman Holiday. Audrey Hepburn plays a princess who goes undercover by chopping off her long hair. And in the film, you can see how scandalized the hairstylist is by this.
Here.
Even more.
Where?
There.
There. Are you sure, miss?
Another defiant woman with short hair was Leslie Caron in 1955's An American in Paris. She demanded the studio let her have short hair based on a style she'd seen back home in France. And when her stylist wouldn't do it, she cut her hair herself and reportedly delayed filming for weeks. In 1957, Jean Seberg cut her long blonde hair to play the role of medieval feminist icon Joan of Arc. Then debuted in 1960's Breathless, the pixie cut that women still bring to their stylists to this day. The next decade would be major for the modern-day pixie. In 1965, Vidal Sassoon invented the avant-garde 5-point cut, and the next year, Twiggy received the experimental crop that would make her famous when she was just 16. It was a time when women aspired to look young, fun, and sporty, yet the idea of a woman cutting her hair short was still considered a little shocking. Take the scene from 1966's Peyton Place, after Mia Farrow's character cuts her long hair in an act of passion.
Do you like it?
It takes getting used to.
You know what it really means, Doctor? I got tired of my long hair. Simple.
This scene is actually a pretty good summary of what happened in real life. Like Leslie Caron, Farrow actually cut it herself, and according to TV historian Stephen Bowie, she did it without the knowledge of the TV show's writers or producers, forcing them to write an explanation into the series. The press spectacle that followed was disappointingly predictable. Newspapers suggested she cut it off to spite her then-boyfriend Frank Sinatra. It's irrelevant, but according to Farrow, he loved it. And sure enough, a man was given credit for that famous pixie cut. When promoting 1968's Rosemary's Baby, Paramount staged a photo shoot where stylist Vidal Sassoon cut her hair just half an inch, months after she'd already cut her own hair for Peyton Place. By the 70s, the world had gotten to know and love short hair on women like Goldie Hawn on Laugh-In, Liza Minnelli, and Dorothy Hamill. But then in 1999, a short haircut hit a real nerve. Felicity's haircut in the season 2 premiere is to this day used as a warning for women thinking about getting a post-breakup cut, even though Felicity herself liked it.
It's a different look. Kind of like a new me. Guys are gonna hate it.
It'd be nice to think that over the past few decades, things have changed. Today, nearly every female celebrity gets a pixie cut at one point in her career or another, and for the most part, it's no big deal. But in the corners of the internet where deeply shitty men express their opinions about gender, there's the idea that women with short hair are not to be trusted, or that they're somehow damaged because if they assume men prefer long hair, then they must be crazy for cutting it off. To which women have long responded, maybe we have better things to do than play up our fertility signifiers to men. And it's that idea that, above anything else, might be the most threatening thing about a woman with a pixie cut. The fact that, sorry dudes, it's not about you.